To order the meeting of the UC Board of Regents today. I'd like, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. And I'm going to ask the secretary for the roll call, please.
Thank you. This roll call the Board of Regents: Blum, Brody, Brown, De La Pena, Elliott, Gould, Island, Kiefer, Lansing, Lozano, Macarishian, Napolitano, Newsom, Oakley, Pattis, Perez, Ramirez, Reese, Rendon, Schroeder, Sherman, Torlixon, Barner, and Zettel. You have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. To our guests in the audience, welcome and thank you for your interest in the University of California and for taking the time to be here. The Regents appreciate your observations and comment. It's important to hear from the public on issues concerning the University of California. The Secretary will review the procedures and ground rules and then recognize each speaker in turn. Yesterday we had an exceptional amount of speakers, and the Regents, I was appreciative, went more than double the time for public comment so we could hear from everybody yesterday. And I believe, considering the number that are signed up, we'll be able to hear from everybody today. So thank you, and
Okay.
I turn it over to the Secretary.
Thank you. The notice you received when you entered the auditorium set out rules for the public comment period today. If you'd like to see a copy, please raise your hand and our staff member will get you one. As Vice Chair Reese indicated, we have 16 individuals who signed up to speak this morning. Each speaker will have up to a minute to address the Regents. There's one person, I believe, who have a couple of colleagues pooling. So the pooled speaker will get 2.5 minutes. I will not give you a warning. However, at the end of your time, you'll hear my beeper go off. So please be mindful of the speakers who will be following you and finish up your statement as soon as the beeper goes off. There's a microphone at the front of the audience. I'm going to call 5 names at a time, so if you could sort of queue up behind there. Once I've called your name, any order you want to speak in is fine. Just let us know who you are before you begin. To hear from as many speakers as possible, the Regents don't use these public comment periods for an exchange with speakers. Regents' questions resulting from your comments will be referred to appropriate staff. Written comment is also important to the Regents. You may give any written materials you've brought with you to our staff member who's out in the audience with you. Those materials will be available to the Regents for the duration of the meeting. And if you don't finish your statement and you have that in writing, please feel free to give that to our staff member also. So this morning, our first 5 speakers are Yelger Kalmin, and I understand 2 of his colleagues have pulled to him, so Mr. Kalmin will have 2.5 minutes. Julia Shamar, Lawrence LeBlanc, Bailey Reckler, and Jasmine Armstrong.
Good morning, my name is Yelger Kalmin. I work at UC San Diego. I'm the president of UPTE, University Professional Technical Employees. I'm here to speak about the outrageous outsourcing of IT jobs here at UC San Francisco. Haven't we learned something from what happened last Tuesday? People are really upset about us losing our jobs. First, we lost all our manufacturing jobs, but we were promised it's going to be okay. We're training all these people at the University of California for all these STEM jobs, these great high-tech jobs. Well, now the University of California is going to start sending these jobs out too? What future do we have left for us here? Haven't we learned anything? People in the United States are sick and tired of us losing our decent jobs. The University of California should definitely not be taking leadership on sending these jobs that are our future out of here. We strongly believe that international collaboration is an important part of what we do. I come from a foreign country. I come from the Netherlands. My father came here as a visiting scientist. We're fine about working together in an international community for the benefit of us all, but we're not going to participate in a race to the bottom where working people are fighting each other all across the world to see who can be exploited the most. I urge you to take leadership and stop this outrageous outsourcing. It's going to save you a couple pennies for massive political cost, for massive financial cost in the long run, and massive security cost. This makes absolutely no sense. I'm going to yield the rest of my time to one of my colleagues here, who's one of the ones that's going to get laid off thanks to UCSF. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hank Nguyen. I'm a computer tech at UCSF. Last July, about the same time, I got 2 notices from UC. One is the bill for my daughter to go to UC Santa Cruz. for $35,000, and the other layoff notice. And my daughter asked me, can I go that, or should I continue my education? I could not. I did not know how to respond to that. To my daughter and all the kids who are pursuing STEM education degrees. Thank you.
And my name is Keith Pavlik, and I work at UCSF. I want to mention just that a lot of this outsourcing work is being done through the use of H-1B visas, and I want to mention that President Napolitano, when she was Director of Homeland Security, said that our top obligations are to American workers, making sure American workers have jobs, and that's what we call on you to do here today. Thank you.
Good morning, Chancellor Napolitano. Good morning, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, and the rest of the Regents. I am a doctoral student who is very privileged. I'm the daughter of a custodian who is a union man and a waitress who went back to school and became a public school teacher. I want to express solidarity today with all these people that you see before you who are the working class of America. The working classes who I study because I'm getting a doctorate in working class studies feel disenfranchised. Globalism has done great things in some cases, but in many cases, what it has done is disenfranchise the working classes on behalf of the 1%. I want to be part of this solution. As somebody who is studying this, I want to say to you today, please think about putting more resources into the academic areas that study these issues. If we learned one thing with this last election, we learned that big data does not teach us everything. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Julia Shamar, and I'm a second-year student at UC Riverside. I first want to thank you all for expanding regental policy to require you all to take the sexual harassment and sexual assault training. However, I do not want to stand before you all thinking that this is enough. Norman Pattis's sexual harassment forced a college-aged woman of color out of her job, making him sit in front of a computer screen clicking away at modules, and screens will not repair the damage that has been caused not only to the individuals he affected, but to the university that people like myself take trust in and confidence in. Nothing will repair that damage, and his resignation is the only remedy to truly create the sexual assault prevention culture that we really want to do and that we say that we're doing. If Pattis remains on this board, he only serves to extend the notion that the UC Regents is a board truly disconnected from the student body. Thank you.
Good morning, Regents, Madam President, Lieutenant Governor Newsom. My name is Lawrence LeBlanc, second-year student at UC San Diego. Madam President, I applaud your recent statement jointly issued with the chancellors, which reaffirms the UC's values of diversity and inclusion following the national election results. However, I do have one question. Will the University of California and the UCPD voluntarily collaborate with agencies like the CBP, ICE, or DHS to deport undocumented immigrants and/or students? CSU Chancellor Timothy White recently took a stance on this issue in light of the looming Trump administration, and now the spotlight is on you. As a grad student at UC San Diego, I have seen repeated shockings by individuals who clearly feel that their freedom of speech is appropriate in the form of vandalism and intimidation on campus cultural centers like the Raza Resource Center. For me, freedom of speech is being right here in front of you all with a major concern to express. Therefore, I ask of you, the Regents, please make the UC a sanctuary campus system. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Efechukwu Okiki, Shafi Karim, Maureen Barr, Shirley Toy, and Christine Hildebrand.
Good morning, board members. As we speak, there is a protest going on outside of the building in the entrance, and this is a protest formed by a coalition of UC students protesting the tuition hikes that will be discussed. Tuition hikes affect the student population in so many ways. Granted, there are students who get financial aid to cover their tuition, the cost of tuition, but fees go up as well, and students can't afford it. At a campus like mine, the cost of attendance is underestimated, and so the financial aid students receive is not even enough to pay for their basic needs. 48% of UC students are food insecure, and tuition hikes are not the solution. I believe the UC should be advocating to reach out to get state funding. The UC students shouldn't be penalized for misuse of public funds by administrators like our chancellor on campus, who built a fence with $250,000 that could have been put towards other things. We should not be penalized for investments that have gone wrong. We should not be put in a situation where we're food insecure, we're housing insecure, and we don't know what our basic need security looks like. I advocate for the UC reaching out to state funding and not students to cover the cost of the UC system. Thank you.
My name is Maureen Barr, UC Irvine Medical Center, CNA Chief Nurse Rep. I am a registered nurse who has worked for UC Irvine for almost 30 years in the emergency department. My colleagues and I represent the nurses and auxiliary personnel at UCI. We are very disappointed with the decision by UCI to lay off 175 employees, which include registered nurses. UCI is the only level 1 trauma center in Orange County. We're a cardiac stroke receiving center, burn center. We're also a nationally recognized cancer center. We also accept high acuity patients from surrounding medical centers for higher level of care. The frontline staff, patients, and their families are concerned that the layoffs will have a detrimental effect on patient care. Just prior to the layoffs, management met with CNA regarding their plans for transformational operations. To our dismay, CNA was notified the UCI administration hired an outside consulting firm for a large sum of money. Management stated that expenses were outpacing the revenue. CNA brought to management's attention that the university employed 50 travelers. Travelers are RNs that are contracted by an outside agency to work for a university at a premium rate. By their nature, travelers have little or no vested interest in their working community. Some of those travelers have held their position for several years. So terminate the traveler's contract and place preferential rehires in their position per CNA contract. So it begs the question, why is UCI having a difficult time recruiting and retaining RNs to the point that they are relying on expensive travelers to fill the RN positions throughout the medical center? Thank you for your time.
My name is Shirley Toy, and I've been a nurse at UC Davis for 26 years. I'm also the mother of a recent college graduate, and I have a high school junior who will be applying to UC next year. I'm a proud member of CNA and the Chief Nurse Rep at UC Davis. I've been on the bargaining team in the past, and I will be on it next year. The election results have instilled in me and many others a deep resolve to fight even harder for the common good and what is right. As we prepare for contract negotiations next year, we will stand firm with our patients, our fellow nurses, and other UC workers. We call on the UC Regents to stand with us against the impending assault on our communities, our educational institutions, and our healthcare system. It is time for principled leadership that will defend what we have built, rather than continuing the race to the bottom with layoffs, pension cuts, and unsafe staffing. As our patients continue to get sicker and with more medically complexities, we will continue to demand adequate staffing levels so that we can give our patients the time, attention, and care that they need and deserve. We will oppose profit-driven layoffs, outsourcing, and cuts, and the pension that you want to impose. We stand in solidarity with students, and we stand for health care as a human right. We refuse to lower expectations of our universities and our medical centers. We will fight for the best, demand the best, and give our best to the UC system. As nurses, it's our duty to advocate for our patients, and our advocacy extends to our profession, our communities, and our society at large. I urge you today to join us in this fight.
Hello Regents, I'm Shafiq Kareem here as ASUC Riverside President. Today I'm here on behalf of a former student who would like me to read her statement to y'all. Hello, my name is Yesenia Santiago Arismendi. I was a former UCR student, and I'm also a dreamer and a proud undocumented student. I grew up in Pomona, a low-income community. Unfortunately, I did not have the luxury to be just a student. I had to work 2 full-time jobs to pay rent while also being a full-time student. Ultimately, I couldn't handle the weight on my shoulder and ending up falling behind, which caused me to lose my financial aid that led to my dismissal. I understand I'm not completely out of fault. However, I do feel that the UC system let me down, and I hope the UC system can adjust and learn from this. End of her statement. Unfortunately, this is not a unique story. I do believe we can take, before we take away financial aid, put students in academic probation, or dismiss them, the UC system should take into account personal circumstances and such as food and housing security and their general well-being. Thank you.
I have a question. If there are 3 of us and we didn't say that we were going to pool our time, can we still pool our time, or is that past that?
Okay, we'll let you have 2.5 minutes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, President Napolitano, Lieutenant Governor Newsom, and the UC Regents. My name is Christina Hildebrand. I'm here on behalf of A Voice for Choice, an advocacy organization. I'd like to speak to you today about the immunization policy that's going into place next year. What I would ask you is, under what authority do you have to mandate vaccines as a stipulation for entry into the UC system? That is what will happen next year. There are 4 different vaccinations, 4 different diseases that you require vaccination for as of next year. The medical exemption policy, we have worked with the work group to have that become less stringent. However, that medical exemption policy has not been posted on the website or anywhere else. So I would ask that you demand your work group and you to update that policy on your website. I also ask that you add a religious exemption. The UC schools did not have any vaccine requirements up until this year. It was assumed that all students, for domestic students, that all students would be up to date on their vaccinations, as up to date as they themselves thought they needed to be. The UC system will be one of the only schools, actually the only set of schools in the country that will not have a religious exemption. That religious exemption is a fundamental right in our federal constitution, and I demand that you add that religious exemption into your immunization policy. There are students that, there are vaccines, and 2 of the vaccines that you require include aborted fetal cells. And there's an issue, people say, well, aborted fetal cells aren't actually in the vaccines. They're in the vaccines. They've been made from aborted fetal cells. They may not carry through, but the DNA from those aborted fetal cells have been shown to be in those vaccines. I would also look at what vaccines you're requiring. One of the vaccines that you're requiring is the MMR vaccine. The MMR vaccine among women, post-pubescent women, has a 25%, that's a quarter of all post-pubescent women that get the MMR vaccine will get arthritis. That is a huge risk you are asking these students to undertake if they have not had the MMR vaccine prior to them coming to college. That's a much, much greater risk than an adverse reaction from measles, mumps, or rubella. We've seen outbreaks, the mumps outbreak at Harvard. We've seen another mumps outbreaks here in California. Those mumps outbreaks haven't had severe adverse reactions. They've inconvenienced some people, but getting a 25% chance of getting arthritis from that vaccine, that's known. It's in the package insert. To ask students to put that into their bodies is just wrong. So I ask you again, I ask you what authority you have to put this mandate in place as a stipulation for the schools, and I ask you to add a religious exemption. Thank you.
Okay, we have 4 more individuals who signed up. Tomas Masaryk, can't read your writing, sorry. Karen Cliff, Loretta Lynch, and Chris Saber. Once again, individual speakers have up to 1 minute. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tomas Masaryk, and I also would like to speak to the vaccine issue. I'm a victim of vaccines. I kind of cheated you folks because when I woke up this morning, I was sleeping in my car, and I was filthy. I have a hard time functioning day to day. I worked 33 years on the railroad, and I got injured, and they took me to the hospital, and they gave me the DTaP, one of the vaccines that you folks want to mandate to our children. I'm telling you, the DTaP destroys brains. Reconsider this policy. That's all I can say. I have this for you. This is from the former head of the NIH. She's dead now, but she has an opinion on vaccines. And on the back is the name of Dr. Stephanie Seneff. She's from MIT, one of our top institutions. I highly recommend you go online and find out what she says about vaccines. Please don't force our children to take these vaccines to go to school. You're going to destroy some brains if you do that. Thank you for listening.
Karen Cliff, I'm passing my time to Loretta Lynch.
Madam Chair and Regents, my name is Loretta Lynch, and I'm a neighbor of the SF General Hospital. I speak to the agenda changes that have occurred over the past 24 hours and to the vote to be held today. The UC Regents have violated the Bagley-Keene open meeting law by not providing the legally required 10-day notice for the agenda for this meeting. The simple fact is that through actions that were taken not in a timely manner by the UC, your meeting agenda is defective. But the UC has chosen to disregard its own mistakes and plow through, putting your time and decisions at risk today. The actions taken yesterday to patch up the legal and process problems that are now embedded in this agenda have only made the problems worse. You took 2 actions in the Finance and Capital Strategies Committee, one of which was never noticed on the agenda. Moreover, this project fails to comply with your own long-range development planning process and the rules set out therein. For those of you who care about sustainable development, you should follow your own rules. The proper thing to do here is to take this defective agenda-sized matter off this agenda and engage with the community on the real parking and transit solutions that we have proposed and that have worked for other hospitals and other projects in San Francisco. We want to work with you to fix the problems that your EIR even fails to identify. We ask you to be a good neighbor at SFGH. The Regents can start by following the law and not considering the research building matter today. By considering and acting on this project at this meeting, in clear violation of the law and the process set forward in your own policies, the Regents are doing something pernicious. You are chipping away at the people's trust in their government. You are feeding the beast of the anger at government because of your actions that lack transparency and give rise to the public's distrust. Why not fix your agenda problems, put off consideration of this deficient proposal, and stop treating your neighbors as irritating gnats to be swatted away rather than the concerned citizens who have offered real-world workable solutions to the problems that your EIR fails to address? So start by following the law, crossing your procedural T's, and being a good neighbor by sitting down with the neighbors and listening to our real-world traffic, parking, and pollution solutions that will work for us all.
My name is Christopher Saber. I'm a neighbor of San Francisco General Hospital. The EIR, excuse me, the EIR is inadequate because it violates CEQA provisions against piecemealing a project that, proposes for purposes of CEQA requirements and review. You cannot fail to take responsibility for the garage expansion, claiming that it is a separate city project, then attempt to preempt proper CEQA review by including some, but not all, of the impacts on the neighborhood and in your research EIR. The site for the proposed research building is designated as open space in the EIR, which was done for the newly completed San Francisco General Hospital. This is the last open space on the San Francisco General Hospital campus. I would like to respectfully ask you to make these EIRs really mean something. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Those are all of our speakers this morning.
Thank you. I want to thank the speakers for their comments this morning, and I want to say to all the speakers that while the format doesn't have interaction, I want you to know that your comments are heard and very often impactful, so thank you. I'd like to call